The first snow was beautiful. The second was dangerous. But when the third storm arrived, the tribe knew something was wrong. The wind had changed. The animals were disappearing. The river had frozen solid. And every morning, the cold seemed deeper than the day before. Inside the cave, the fire burned through the night. But even beside the flames, people were cold. A mother wrapped her child tightly in animal skins. An old man moved closer to the fire. The hunters watched the entrance. Outside, the world was disappearing beneath snow. They had survived predators. They had survived hunger. But this enemy was different. You could not see it. You could not fight it. And it was everywhere. Winter had arrived. When the world froze. For early humans, winter was not simply a colder season. It could change everything. Plants disappeared beneath snow. Small animals became harder to find. Large herds moved toward warmer regions. Water froze, and every journey became more dangerous. The tribe depended on the landscape around them, but the landscape was changing. A valley that had provided food during the warmer months was now buried beneath snow. A river that had provided water was now sealed beneath ice. The world that once fed them was becoming empty, and the tribe faced a terrible choice. They could stay,
or they could move. Neither choice was safe. Inside the cave, the adults gathered around the fire. The food they had stored was running low. One hunter pointed toward the mountains. He believed the animals had moved there. Another pointed toward the valley. Perhaps some food remained. But the oldest member of the tribe shook his head. He remembered winters like this. When the snow became too deep, animals disappeared. People became weak, and those who traveled too far sometimes never returned. The tribe had to make a decision: stay
and risk starvation, or move while they still had the strength to travel. There was no safe choice, only the choice that might keep them alive. Finally, they decided to move. The tribe packed everything they could carry: animal skins, wooden spears, stone tools, food, and most importantly, fire. They protected a handful of glowing embers inside a small natural container, shielding them as carefully as they could from the wind. Then they stepped outside. At first, the journey was manageable. Then the snow began falling harder. The wind pushed against them. Visibility disappeared. The children struggled to walk. The adults carried them. Every step required effort, but they kept moving, because stopping in the open could mean death.
The storm became worse. Snow covered their tracks almost immediately. The hunters could no longer see the mountains. The tribe began to separate. One family disappeared into the white. Someone shouted. Another voice answered from far away. They tried to stay together, but the wind swallowed their voices. For the first time, the tribe understood how powerful the storm really was. It did not need claws. It did not need teeth. It simply surrounded them, slowly, silently, and completely. Then someone noticed something. A child was missing. The tribe stopped. The mother screamed the child's name. No answer. The hunters looked around. Only white. They could continue moving and perhaps survive, or they could turn back. The safest decision would be to keep moving, but they could not leave the child behind. One hunter turned around. Another followed, then another. The tribe split into two groups. Some continued toward shelter. Others searched the storm. They had no idea how long they had before the cold became fatal. The hunters moved slowly through the snow. They searched behind rocks, near trees, along the edge of the valley. Nothing. Then one hunter noticed a small footprint. Another and another. The child had been walking toward the trees. They followed. The tracks became weaker, then disappeared. The hunter stopped. He listened. A faint sound came from beneath a fallen tree. He moved closer. There, hidden beneath the branches, was the child, alive, barely. The hunter pulled the child into his arms and began carrying him back.
But the storm had taken something else. The precious fire was almost gone. When the tribe finally reached shelter, they opened the container. Only a few glowing embers remained. Everyone became silent. They knew what that meant. If the fire died, there was no easy way to replace it. Making another fire in freezing conditions could become a matter of life and death. The tribe gathered dry material. They protected it from the wind. They worked together. One person prepared the fuel, another protected the embers, another shielded the area with animal skins. They had only one chance. The hunter placed a small ember beneath the dry material. He blew gently. Nothing. He tried again. A tiny glow appeared, then disappeared. The child watched. The adults waited. The hunter tried again. A small flame appeared. For a moment, nobody moved. Then the flame grew. Small, weak, but alive.
The tribe moved closer. Warmth returned. The children moved toward it. The adults finally relaxed. They had not defeated winter. They had only survived another night. But sometimes, survival means winning one more night. That night, nobody slept deeply. They understood something. The cold could take everything away: food, water, shelter, strength, even fire. So humans had to adapt. They needed better clothing, better shelters, better tools. They needed to understand where animals moved during winter. They needed ways to store food, and they needed to travel together. They learned one of the most important lessons of survival. Never depend on a single source of survival. If the fire disappeared, they needed another way to stay warm. If the animals moved, they needed another source of food. If the cave became unsafe, they needed another shelter. Survival was not about preparing for one danger. It was about preparing for the next one.
Morning finally arrived. The storm had passed. The valley looked completely different. Everything was white. The tribe stepped outside. They were exhausted, hungry, cold, but alive. The child stood beside his mother. The hunters carried their spears, and behind them, the fire continued to burn. It was only a small flame, but it represented something enormous. Humanity had survived another winter, not because humans were stronger than nature, but because they adapted, they learned, they cooperated, and they refused to give up. But surviving one winter did not mean surviving the next. The tribe looked toward the frozen mountains. Beyond them, the animals were moving.
and following them would mean entering an even harsher world. A world where survival would demand more than fire, more than food, more than courage. The Ice Age was only beginning. This was the First Age.